Hello everyone, welcome to Wild Woodland Lavender Farm. My name is Carrie. I'm out here in my no-till garden and I just wanted to share some things that I found out here. A few weeks ago I did my after winter tour of the garden here just to see, sorry my dog is sniffing me, just to see what it looked like after the winter. And we saw lots of green stuff growing still and stuff that I had harvested all winter long. Some not spinach, chard, and some cabbage and broccoli leaves, and I was able to feed my rabbits all year long out of this garden. But I wanted to show you some updates of some of the stuff I found here, and this is my honeyberry plant, and you can see it's got some blossoms on there, so I'll be getting some honeyberries here in just a few weeks. And in fact, you can see right here when it looks like the berry is starting to form, so that's pretty cool. And I'm gonna take you over to the greenhouse after this and show you some of the plants that overwintered there and then some new plants that I have since gotten. So first of all, I'll just kind of show you some of the stuff that I found here. Let's go take a look. So right here is an old cabbage plant from last year, and you can actually see it's had some new growth on it and it's flowering out, so it's going to actually seed out more. And I say more because in my tour earlier I showed you some seeds on the ground that were had fallen out from the cabbage plant up here, and I said it's going to be growing some new cabbage plants for me. And I just wanted to show you all of these. Well, there's a few weeds in here. I was out here weeding the other day. But all of these are new cabbage plants. And all the way under there, new cabbage plants that I didn't have to plant. And that's the beauty of a no-till garden. You let things go to seed, and yes, it's ugly. It's not pretty. But there is abundance that I didn't have to worry about planting. And it started growing as soon as the weather was good enough for it to grow. So I didn't have to worry about timing it and planting it in the greenhouse and then getting it out in the garden as soon as it was time. It just naturally grew because that's what it did. And I was noticing some other plants that came up. This and this, radishes. There's more there. And then right here, there's morning glory there. Pull that out. But this is another little kale plant. And the kale plant that was here, look, there's another radish. It hasn't been here since, I don't know, there wasn't a kale plant here last year, so it was reseeded from the kale that was here from the people who planted it. Of course, they planted the cabbage there, but I pulled out the old kale plant quite some time ago. Oops, and I see another little kale plant right here. So I'll have a couple kale plants that were just reseeded here as well. And again, here's another radish, more radish plants here. So it's rather exciting to see all this happening in the no-till garden, and it's all because I just let things go to seed and let them just kind of naturally do their thing. Okay, let's go look in the greenhouse now and I'll show you some of the other things I have going on in there. I should also mention, I forgot about these for a minute, these long spindly things, I haven't determined if they're, I think they're, well, I thought they were leeks, but they might be garlic. And I was pulling up some lemon balm plants, and these were all caught up. Let's see, there's one there that's out. They were all caught up in the roots of the lemon balm that I pulled out. So I rescued them, and I've stuck them in the ground here, and they'll finished growing out in their new home here. So again, that was all just plants naturally reseeding themselves, and then I replanted them so they could have room to grow. And that's actually what I'm gonna do with the cabbage over here. Is I'm going to, they can't all grow to their proper size here, so I'm gonna have to replant some of these in other locations. So that's not a hard thing to do, though. It'll be rather easy to do. And just to show off my rhubarb, this is one of my 4 huge rhubarb plants, and it's got a good start on the year. In a few weeks I should be able to start selling some rhubarb. Okay, here we are in my greenhouse, and got a lot of the things to show you in here. I'll start over here. First of all, I had some trees overwinter in here. This was an olive tree, an Arquinus, I don't know, olive, and it didn't even lose its leaves, even when it got to the single digits outside. I'm not sure if it got that cold in here, but all of my other trees and stuff that were in here lost their leaves. But the olive tree retained theirs. I've never grown an olive tree, so this is my first experience with them. But you can see here, it's got a little leaf down here starting even, and then it's got all this growth here. So I'm gonna get this planted outside this year, this springtime. Need to decide where I want to put it. And this will be a nice addition to my food forest. All right here, sadly, I think my pineapple sage plant did not survive the winter, even being in the greenhouse. I think the freeze was just too much for it. This was actually sent to me by Bees and Seeds, which you should go check out her channel. She's got a lot of really great, helpful tips that she does on growing, and then she's been doing some work in her garden that is waterlogged a good portion of the springtime. So she's been working on building up her soil there. So sadly, no more pineapple sage, but I'll have to track down another one. Then these right here were my hardy pomegranate, Russian hardy pomegranate, and sadly, I think they are not quite so hardy. I don't know. There's no new growth on it yet. I think they're gone, kaput. This right here was my soapnut berry tree, or soapberry tree, that actually surprised me by actually germinating and growing, and its leaves actually lasted a long time into the winter in here, but once we hit that really frigid temps, down into the teens and the single digits, the leaves went bye-bye, and I don't see any new growth on it at this point. It may surprise me, but yeah, I think it's not going to survive, so I need to try yet again with more soapnut berries. I'm determined to make them live in this area. So we shall see. We shall see. So I'm going to turn you around now and show you some other things. Last year I got some Victoria rhubarb seeds and planted them, and I had almost every single one germinate. And I think what I have right here, between all of these pots and then this one and this one, and I think this one might be a different variety because you can see the stalks are completely red. This might be my kangaroo rhubarb, which is supposed to be able to tolerate hotter regions. So people in the south would be able to get these. I got this from like Gurney's or Burpees. I think it was Gurney's. You just need to do a search for the kangaroo, R-H-U, rhubarb plant. I think that's the only place to be able to find it. I thought it was when I started by seed, but just looking at the more red stalks there compared to the Victoria, which you can see is not quite as red. So anyway, between all of these pots, I have about 26 rhubarb plants. I might sell some, but actually I kind of want to become a rhubarb farmer, so I'll probably be planting these throughout my food forest. Down here in this little raised bed, right there is a bunch of weeds. I had shown that I had planted some beets, celery, lettuce, and spinach. And there were a lot of weeds that came up, mostly it's chickweed, but there were some other weeds as well. And obviously, since when the weather started getting cold, I lost my beets, and I don't know what happened with the celery, if it even started growing, I don't know. But the lettuce and the spinach have survived. And I actually ended up, when it started getting really cold, I laid down this row cover on top of it. I was too late to save the beets, but I did save the lettuce and the spinach. And I planted this at the beginning of December, like the very first week of December. So they didn't really have a long time to start growing before the cold weather came. And so they lasted through the winter, just kind of, you know, a stunted growth. And then once it started warming up in here, they started growing again. So I was actually able to start harvesting spinach and lettuce long before I would have even had it growing outside. So even though it got a late start in the greenhouse, I was still able to make use of it. Sorry, I'm just pulling out some of these chickweed plants. All right, many of you know the name of my farm, Wild Woodland Lavender. The wild woodland is for my food forest part of the farm, and then of course the lavender. And these are lavender plants that I bought last spring, and I transplanted them, and they've lasted throughout the winter here. And they kind of look really sad right now, but they've obviously survived, and I have a bunch of new growth on them. Some of them more than others. There are some that don't seem to have survived at all. I don't see any new growth on them. There's some that look completely dead, but you can see there's just a little bit of new growth on them. So I showed where we had silage tarps out there in one of my previous videos, and we're going to be planting this lavender out there as soon as we can get it. I've checked the grass underneath, and it's pretty much dead, so we'll be able to work the ground here soon and get these in. This lavender right here, I had started from seed. It's the Lady Anne, I do believe, and it's already ready to bloom. And so I ended up with 2 starts from the seeds that I planted. And those are really, really kind of nice to have. And speaking of starting lavender from seed, I tried 2 times last year to get lavender started, and these 2 plants were the result of it, of one try with the Lady Anne, and then I have just the Lady Lavender, which is the kind that I bought here. But I was actually able to find seeds, and I tossed them in here. Looks like they need to be watered. And I had like none come up, or maybe 2. And I just left it over the winter, kind of kept watering it, because I did have a couple in here. Probably this bigger one here, and then another one. And so I kept watering them so that they would stay alive so I can transfer them. And then this spring, lo and behold, they all just started popping up. The problem is I don't know whether they're the Lady Lavender or the Lady Anne lavender seeds, because I used this for both of them. So I was having such trouble starting them last year, and I couldn't figure out why, because I at least had 2 come up. But I think the issue is, and I have a subscriber, Margie, who was saying she just couldn't get lavender to grow for the life of her. And I think the issue is you need to have stratification for the seeds. So they need that cold period. They had the winter here, and so they were able to stratify and then get the growth that they needed from there. So I think that's the key to it. And here I have some asparagus. I never got planted last year, so need to get that in the ground this year. Okay, asparagus that I planted from seed. I think this is the Martha Washington asparagus, and most of them are sending up new shoots for the year, and some of them have not, so it doesn't look like all of them survived, but I did get several that have the new shoots in it. I had some creeping thyme last year. One plant didn't survive, one plant did, so that's nice. Now we have some new plants. I've been ordering from Azure Standard, and I happened to notice they have plants. I didn't know they sold plants, but these are all organic plants, and they're through Azure Standard, but it's from this nursery, Ellie's Eden, sorry. And they're all organic plants. I got a perennial thyme for the food forest, biennial mullein, which I have some mullein plants here, but I just wanted to get one that I didn't have to transplant. And so I got that from them. And I know I have some lavender plants already, but this was the Elegance lavender. I'll show you here. Elegance. And so I got 3 of those, not for my lavender field, but to put in my food forest. These here are cilantro. Can't stand cilantro, whatever you want to call it, cilantro, but my husband likes it for his salsas. So I bought some just for him. Shows you how much I love him. These are the wild strawberries that I planted last year, and they just had a phenomenal growth. Last year they were just this lower section down here, and this spring they just started bursting forth with all this new growth. So I'll be planting this in the food forest here soon. I also got some red roja kale. I think I got 2 of those. Yep, that one and this one. And then this one is the Russian red kale. Now I showed you that kale that was coming up from seed in the garden. I bought these not knowing I had those out there. But when I'm not a big fan of kale, but I had some of that red kale, or purple or red, I guess it was a red kale, out in the garden after the winter hit, not this last winter, but the winter before. And I actually liked it. It was tender and it was rather flavorful. So I decided to try some red kale so that we can add it to our meals. Gonna try adding it to our meals. Then I also got a couple peppermint plants. I do have a peppermint plant over in my no-till garden, but I wanted to plant these in our food forest. Here is a Howard pumpkin. I have lots of pumpkin seeds, but most of them are like sugar pie pumpkins or some other squashes. And I wanted some pumpkins to be able to use for like fall decorating and stuff. And these are like the more, jack-o'-lantern style of pumpkin versus a sugar pie pumpkin, which is a lot smaller. Then I got 2 nasturtiums, and then I also got some nasturtium seeds somewhere else. This is one of the plants that you can use at the base of apple trees to help kind of trap codling moths so that they don't bother your apples. And then the last thing I got from Alger Standard was this flowering plant called Kiss Me Over the Garden Gate. And it was just intriguing to me. I'm not sure I've ever seen this before. It's actually going to kind of look like this plant right here. So I'll have that as a nice little decorative plant that will also attract pollinators. I actually made myself come out to the greenhouse and get some seeds planted. I needed to get tomatoes and peppers in the soil so that I could have them ready for the season. I had specific plants that I wanted, so it's probably nothing that I could really find in a store around here. Plus I had the seeds and I just wanted to make use of them. So I didn't plant the variety of tomatoes and peppers that I did last year. Instead, I'm focusing on specific ones for specific uses and planting multiple plants of those rather than just a few plants of many. I'm planting many of a few. I was overwhelmed last year with the amount of varieties, and then what do you do with them after you have them all? I only need 1 paste tomato. I didn't need, 3 or 4 types of paste tomatoes. But anyway, I made the decision this year to kind of limit the number of varieties that I planted, just so that I wouldn't be so overtaken and feel like I have to plant so many different kinds. So, oh good, there was a wasp flying around in here, but it flew out. Oop, nope, it's still up there. Wasps like to come into the greenhouse, so I have to fight them for it each year. All right, so let me show you what tomatoes and peppers I planted. These 2 pots right here are very special. They're the ones that I got from M.I. Gardner. The 87-year-old seeds that he found that he started, and they were pretty much extinct. They're called Giant Crimson. And I got 2 packs from him, and 1 pack had 6 seeds and the other plant have 5 seeds. So you can see here, this was the 6 seed pack. All of them came up, and this was the 5 seed pack, and only 3 came up. I'm hoping the other 2 might be late bloomers and will still come up, but I haven't seen them yet. But you can see they're starting to get their second set of leaves. That's exciting. I'm excited to grow this and kind of help save an almost extinct variety, pass around some of the tomatoes and the seeds to other people so they can get them growing in their garden as well. If you want more information about those, you can head over to MI Gardener, and he has a bunch of videos on these seeds and how he went about saving them. In this section right here, I had 6 cell planter thingies, whatever these are, seed packs, pony packs, and these are all Hungarian heart tomatoes. And you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then kind of a 7th one here. 7 coming up so far. It's still possible more may pop up. I did have another one back here, but we actually went through another cold spell just recently with snow and everything, and I didn't have them covered, and I think it got to that one. I ended up taking that row cover and covering over the top just to give them that extra layer. I've heard that if you have an extra layer in your greenhouse during the winter time, it kind of adds like an extra 5 degrees for every layer that you add. Okay, right here I did mortgage lifter tomatoes. These are multi-purpose. They're, what is it? What do you want? I know you want in, but I don't want you in right now. Sorry, I know. Go play with the boys. Go play with the boys. So these are more for slicing and for canning, canning diced tomatoes and whatnot. The Hungarian heart is a paste type tomato, so I'll use those for sauces and stuff, and for diced tomatoes too. But this is good for dicing and canning diced tomatoes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these has come up out of these whole sections. And you can see their second leaves are starting to come up too. In this section here are peppers. These are banana peppers. I love pickled banana peppers, so I was hoping to grow a whole lot. These seeds are not up yet, but pepper seeds usually always germinate later for me than tomato. Okay, these from not these 3 here, but the rest of them are jalapeno for my husband because he likes his jalapeno peppers. I don't mind them, but they're not my favorite. And then these 3 right here are a California Wonder Pepper. So those are like the green bell pepper type things. Because some people in our family like to eat the bell peppers. I don't, but I'm going to grow them for the other people in my family. Again, none of them are coming up yet, but I'm not too worried because they usually pop up after my tomatoes anyway. So I need to water these and get some of the other plants watered in here. So, oh, one more thing I wanted to show you, which I'm really excited about. I showed you the honeyberry out in the other garden, and I fell in love with the honeyberry, and so I searched online and found a website, honeyberryusa.com. They have a wide variety of hascups, or honeyberries as they're called. They're also called yasberries, I think. Yes or yasberries, something like that. And I bought some, and they finally came, and I'm excited. I'm going to be planting them throughout my food forest. But these are the kinds that I got. This is the Boreal Beauty. And then here we have Indigo Treat. Boreal Blizzard. I got 2 of those, I do believe. 2 Boreal Beauty Blizzards. This one is the Honeybee. And then this one here is Indigo Gem. So you have Indigo Gem and Indigo Treat. These right here are both the same. They are the Kauai. And then here we have Keiko. So the great thing about honeyberries is they are very good for a colder region food forest. So they're a berry that will bloom early in the spring. For colder regions, it might be later in the year, but in my region, like that honeyberry in my garden has been blooming for about a week at least already, and it's April. So these have different, these varieties here, they have different blooming times. Some of them are earlier, some of them are later. If you live in a hotter region, you're going to want to go with the later blooming berries. So honeyberryusa.com has, it might be honeyberryus.com. I'll put the link in the description. So some of them are earlier blooming, some of them are later blooming, and you'll want to read up on which will be better for your areas. But generally, growing zones 8 through 10, they're not really good for. It's better for growing zones, like I can grow them in my area, obviously. So zones 6 and 7, they're really good for growing in the colder regions. So 5, 4, 3, 2, maybe not 2. I think there's one that they're trialing for a growing zone 2, and these are US growing zones, by the way. I know other areas have different things for what they call their growing zones. So anyway, I'm excited to have these. I think it's about 11 plants that I'll be adding, and I can't wait to get them in the ground, and next spring I should have a nice little crop of honeyberries. So I'm really excited about that. Anyway, I think that's about it for the greenhouse tour and the fun little new items in my yikes. Oh dear. Looks like I'm gonna have to fight for my space here again. Oh, buzzing my head. Stop it. Yep, flying around there. I don't know if you can see them. Anyway, making a nest right there. So gonna have to take care of that. I think that's it. We'll see you next time. Bye.